And we're back. We have a lovely guest with us today, Thomas LaGrave. We're excited to hear your story and what kind of insights you can offer our audience today. If you want to just take the floor, we'd be happy to get rolling.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm Tom, and my story goes back to being a former Navy SEAL that was discharged from SEAL Team 1 for drug use. And at that time in my life, it was alteringly complete in that my identity was tied to that. And having lost it, I was completely adrift. And not only that was, I had a serious addiction and alcohol problem. So I ended up going to a recovery facility, and it was a 90-day program, and they taught me how to break the physical addiction so that I didn't need to do the drugs, but how to live life, that I had no clue. And so probably at about a year, it dawned on me that if I don't do something different, I'm going to use again. And that fear drove me to take a not normal path. What it was I could not remember childhood. And in my recovery, they're telling me it's in my childhood. The military had shut down all emotions. The drug use had shut down all emotions. I had no clue as to wanting or experiencing emotions other than rage and happiness, and very few things in between. So my thought was, I need to go back and see what it was like. I started at the age of 14. And what I decided to do was I took an overnight counseling position at an adolescent recovery facility, all court appointed, 13 to 17-year-olds that were dealing with the same issue that I had, but they were dealing with it at the age that I had begun. And what I ended up doing was spending the next 4 years being taught by young people. It was an education bar none. It was an amazing experience. And because I had no credentials, at the end of 4 years, they weren't going to give me a caseload, and I wanted to move on. So I ended up taking the second job was as a Boys and Girls Club unit director. I took the job. I had 59 kids when I started, and 4 years later, I had 440.
Oh, wow.
And that was because the first group taught me how to talk to the second group. And the second group taught me how to live life in honesty and where your word is everything. Because with young people, if you tell them you're going to do something, you better do it. And if you don't, there's no second chance. And I wasn't willing to risk that. So they created in me an individual that was sensitive to young folks and how to work with and help with and guide. In the beginning, they were the guides and teachers. And at the end of 8 years, there were certain things that young folks would tell me that it was outside of my scope of understanding. So I did not find that acceptable. And what I decided to do is I went back to school and got all the credentials. I got my bachelor's, the master's, licensed sports certification. And it wasn't so that it looks good. It was so that I didn't get asked a question that I did not have the answer for, or I did not know where to look for. And so it started out a military career that was phenomenal, unbelievable, and one-of-a-kind experience, ending in turmoil and complete destruction. A second chance by young people who taught me. I think the biggest thing that they taught me was to be honest and how to play. And yeah, when I say that, it's like if you're an adult and you want to go play with kids and you're going to play as an adult, they don't want to play with you. So you don't need to understand how to play like a kid. And that gift still sits with me today. You know, I am just this big old kid who is incredibly talented because of the meaning and purpose young folks gave me and a pursuit in life that brought me here at a crossroads where the next piece is the country is not in a good place for our young people. and I needed to have a voice and was trying to figure out how to do that. And my thought was, I'll write a book and tell my story. Everything I just shared with you, I told how it was an adolescent to adulthood, how that happened for me. And for the last 30 years, the last two generations of youth, what it was like for them, what was alike and what was different.
Mm.
And then I brought in the picture of all the generations, silent generation, boomer generation. And I picked the 5, starting with silent, ending with Z, and I did a SWOT, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And I shared how each of the generations, with a focus of, we can't get our answer because we don't want to play nice in the sandbox. But with our young people, we all have kids. And if there is one thing that's a commonality, if we so choose to help and make our youth the focus of attention at a national level, anything's possible.
Mm-hmm.
So in A to Z, with missing a lot of pieces, but making the point, that's my story and how I ended up here sitting with both of you.
I mean, we definitely couldn't have introduced you so well. So I'm really happy we handed that off. That was fantastic. And what a wholehearted and complete journey. I love that the kids kind of reconnected you with your inner child in a way. And
Yes.
I mean, you are in the right club for some play. Alicia and I love being playful and silly. So I'm pretty sure we're wearing tutus in our podcast thing.
That's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Why not wear tutus and dress up when you're in your 30s, right?
And just to let you know, this is because I am interviewing every time I do this, and I'm interviewing to all the young people out there. I believe this is how I should dress to take the job, and my job is I want to be an advocate for America's youth. And I'm interviewing every time I do this, and I dress accordingly for that job.
That's adorable.
That's fantastic. Man, I don't even know where to start.
I know, I have questions.
All right, you take it first. I think I know what my first one is, but go ahead.
Well, if you figured out yours, go ahead.
Fine, I'll go ahead.
Nice.
What was the whisper, or how did you recognize that it was kids that wanted your attention? Because how I'm understanding it is you're kind of at this crux, you didn't know where to go. How did you figure out that you wanted to get involved with kids?
Because I couldn't figure out my, the recovery facility said it's in your childhood. I couldn't see it, I couldn't feel it. So I put myself in the environment of those who were seeing it and feeling it, and I watched and learned. And it was their teaching of me. And this is addiction. The fact of the matter is, you cannot get sober without emotion. You have to. And my military career shut those things down hard. My addiction shut them down. And I had no understanding. And to be perfectly honest with you, as an alpha male, I don't want to feel. I am good with cold and calculating. I understand the world through that lens. But the fact of the matter is, you can't live life as my kind. I'm a drug addict, alcoholic. I can't live without feeling and seeing and expressing and understanding. And that was the gift of all those young people who were going through that transition of dealing with their own addiction and how they would, you know what, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. The fact of the matter is every time somebody comes before me, there is a secret that's killing you. Every human being has that secret. And so I'm watching these 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds give up those secrets, and I'm telling them that's what they need to do. And I'm not giving up mine. I'm a coward in the eyes. The 4th and 5th step, I hadn't done it at the time that I was with them. And so I'm fake, I'm phony, and that's not okay. And so their courage to come and face the demons that are in our darkness, I had to grab my package and stand up and say, all right, I can do this. And I did that because they showed me they could. And if they could, I could.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love it. So you said that then they started asking you questions that you didn't know the answers to. And I'm curious, what kinds of stuff were they throwing at you?
Um, when I got my master's degree, I still didn't have the license, so I have an MSW. My first job was Child Protective Services.
Oh, God, it's so hard.
I grew up in a family that loved too much. You know
Yeah.
what? The love was just it wasn't balanced correctly, but it was overwhelming love.
Mm.
Which you know what? I'll take that to no love. So Child Protective Services, I did not know how this kids grew up with parents that um, I knew of addiction, but sexual abuse and physical abuse, and you know, they come to me and say, you know, my father's beating up my mother, and what am I supposed to do with that? Now, at that point, I'm a Boys and Girls Club unit director with no credentials.
Oh.
So that's you're telling me I didn't know that. You know, my parents, they screamed at the top of their lungs, but they didn't slap each other.
Right.
So that was my reference. But after 3 years at Child Protective Services, wow, that's a rude awakening. But again, if you ask what were the questions, they all aligned in that domain.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Physical
I can
abuse, physical abuse, uh, all of that.
trauma.
Yeah.
So speaking of trauma, coming from the military, you know, I know, back and forth. Uh, I mean, it makes sense to me that your emotions kind of need to be removed from you to do what you need to do because it's not really aligned with like the basic principles of our humanity. It's necessary. I'm very, very eternally grateful. Love to support our military, but this is one of the things that I struggle with is I want to support them finding themselves again, kind of like how you did. Now that has to be their choice and what they do, and I understand that. But I guess I'm curious, having gone like the full circle for you, seeing the detachment, seeing the emptiness, just that rage and happiness to where you are now.
Mhm.
I guess what is the kids kind of brought it back into you, but like how does having the full emotional granularity impact your life today?
So let's stay with that piece, the military, and we'll move from it. Um, 2009 to 2016, I'm a military and family life consultant, an MFLAC. And 2 years into the program, they finally, the last holdout was Special Operations Command. So in the second year, my boss knew my background and he sent me into SOCOM to do all the special forces. I did the Air Force, the Marine, Army, and Navy. And what they taught me was how to present it in such a way that they'll, if they so choose, will correct the emotional component. So what I came to understand was in the military, there are systems and weapon systems. And every time you get a weapon system, it comes with a manual. So if you're thinking along those lines, you know, I do cognitive behavioral. Well, I just tell you how to do cognitive behavioral. I keep you in the rails. I say, no, 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 you can't go out. No, no, in here. And they do the work to the degree that they want to go. And then I also was on the bases where it was active duty and the families. And every Saturday they had the coffee clatches, which was all the wives got together. And I saw early on that I showed up every Saturday, but for only 10 minutes because I wasn't welcome there. But I needed to show them I'm with your husbands, so you need to tell them. And you know what a wife will do when she knows that information? Do I?
What? What's
I don't have
that?
to build that picture, do I? And I just told them. And then at the end of 10 minutes, and every Saturday, predictably so, and that was how I ingratiated through the wives because the guys they weren't going to come.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
That's so funny too.
it does crack me up because sometimes it makes me think about like even my father, and I am such a daddy's girl, and he's fantastic. but he is so stubborn sometimes. And my mom will literally call me when she can't get him to do something and be like, "Can you convince your dad to do this?" And I'll be like, "Why?"
Yeah.
And then she'll tell me, I'm like, "Oh, okay, he's just being stubborn." Sure. And I'll like call him and then I'll get him to do it.
Yes.
And it's just funny to see that that was kind of the, and it makes sense from like the trauma safe space lens, right? Like their wives are like their person, right?
Yeah.
That's their loved one.
Yeah.
I assume they believe that she or he, whoever, has their best interest in heart. So if they're encouraging their partner to kind of connect with you, talk with you, like it kind of, it's like a trust bridge almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
remember, there's always a way. You just have to look at it correctly. And if there was ever one that was, the one that tells you if you can do this, you can do them all, it's with kids. Because if you can get a kid to tell you, talk to you, you had for many things. They saw something, they heard something, they came to understand something, and then the key element was for me to be a curiosity because I needed them to ask me questions.
Mm.
I don't know I don't know how to teach you. I don't know how to guide you. You got issues you need to share with me. And it's like anyone else, whether you're adult male or a young male, we don't like to talk. And so that is what I learned to do, starting with youth and ending with all the special forces guys and gals. Understand something. There are female special forces now that are, oh my God, a different animal.
I like how you said it though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, right,
Uh-huh.
who maybe don't have the military background, but maybe they're resonating with some of the, I don't know, lack of awareness around some of the emotionality. I've heard people before in my practice kind of not understand the value. Like,
Right.
why is it so important?
Mm.
Now, I know my opinion, Alicia, I'm obviously open to hear yours, but I would love to hear your firsthand experience, not only from yours and how you experience it, but like what you've seen with the people you've also kind of been able to support.
Right. So let's put this into context because it goes beyond the emotions. What it comes down to is um, this isn't for everybody. Remember, I cannot get 100% of anything. This is just for those that I can.
Mhm.
As I share it, it goes like this. It comes down to what is it? In sobriety, I found that there was another domain, and that's called spirituality. This is not religion. And
Right.
in spirituality, you have to be open to the universe, and the universe plays on all pistons. And if you want to shut down some of your emotions, you're going to get a kind of sort of a suggestion from the universe. If you want destiny, if
Mhm.
you want truly earth-shaking shattering, then you look to create a life that you live in the spiritual fashion so that the universe can use you as a tool. And look, former Navy SEAL, I will beat you to death. And I don't care if you beat me to death, but that is so limiting on what it is to be a man.
Mm.
Had I not been an addict, I couldn't have this conversation with you.
Yeah.
Or it would have been some other way, maybe I would have been drawn there, but I'm giving you what led me. And
Yeah.
what it comes down to is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And you know what? This is a sweet saying, but if you live it, the world can give you some pretty awesome things.
I started my career working in addiction, and I didn't think I was gonna like it. At the time, I was a 20-something-year-old person that liked to party, and so I was like, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about doing this. But it was amazing and so wonderful, and it taught me so much. And uh God, I could talk about that forever. But I think the point here is uh when people hit rock bottom and people have to look at themselves and they have to do that inventory that you were talking about, it's very vulnerable work. And
Ooh,
it's work that if everybody could do it, I think the world would be so much of a better place. If everybody could work the steps. We don't all have the same addictions, but I think that we all have some sort of addiction, whether it's sugar or social media or whatever, gambling, shopping, whatever it is. We all have things that we tend towards that are more self-destructive than they are helpful. And that's our impulse, that when I'm upset, my impulse is to do this self-destructive thing. And going through the steps, I feel like people, and I don't, it sounds like you finished the steps, I assume,
several times.
several times. And that's such brave work to do too. I mean, oh,
Yeah, it really is. You know, I had the privilege of going to a meeting, an AA meeting, and I'm not an alcoholic, but my family, it runs in it, both sides. And one of my cousins, I mean, I got my cousin back. He got his life back. He was 25 when this was all happening. But I remember going to that meeting and never feeling like safer, never feeling more supported. And it was kind of strange because I walked out of there like almost wanting to be an alcoholic because of the environment that it created. And my cousin kept introducing me as, this is my cousin, she's not one of us. And I'm like, can you stop? He goes, no, you have to earn your right here. And I'm like, I don't really want to earn my right that way. Just like come and hang out. But to your point, Alicia, as I was listening to that meeting, like the thing that kept popping in my brain is like, they need like adulting AA, like
yeah.
kind of that type of program to like help you access your spirituality and that kind of deeper sense of connection to yourself, which interestingly enough, I've been toying around with that whole idea of like, is that something you can teach kids since you are so connected with kids? Because I kind of found my spirituality once I was on my own, out of my parents' house, kind of really identifying as myself, creating my own path at that point. I don't know. I don't have any firsthand experience. I haven't really dug into it. What does your experience say about,
I'll
spirituality?
give you what Einstein said. A mother came up to Einstein and said, "What kind of book should I read my kids?" And Einstein said, "Fairy tales."
Mm,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And the other one that comes to me is Aesop's Fables.
Yeah.
Mm,
There's no lesson in there, but you're
Yeah.
left to figure it out. Remember, the kid does not want to be told. Show me.
yeah.
So if you can put it in, uh, to make it a curiosity, that is that little itch that we all humans have, that you've got to find what's that answer. I've done my job,
Mm.
and they
I
do.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
you
Go
go.
ahead.
No, no, they're
Uh, we talked about, Laura and I, on the podcast before, about Martha Beck's work in the different brain hemispheres,
mhm.
and she said that we train the creativity out of kids essentially, and
Yeah,
train them to be more left-brained, and that actually is a disservice. So
Yeah.
everything that you're talking about aligns very much with that, because kids naturally are going to be more creative and more drawn towards the fairy tale and the imagination
yes,
of all of that, and we squash it out of them
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
our norms and our standards and our protocols. And that, for you, I think, was even a part of your journey, like getting back in touch with your childlike
yeah.
spirit.
And it's the science and the art.
Hmm.
The science is my foundation that I stand on. I create artistically. I do my therapy artistically. I see it from that artistic standpoint. And when it goes off, I go back to the foundation that is the science. Okay, where's it at? Here. Okay, now I took that road and didn't because they didn't respond to it. So where's another road? And you proceed. And with young folks, you know what? Watch them. They're telling you their quirks and they're telling you their enjoyments. And it's not the ones they'll tell you when you ask them. You have to observe to see. You know, they go out and they pick the same little flower up every time. What's that? You know what? There's bugs in there. And it's no. You know what? It's the shape of the flower. And why isn't this other flower this shape? Do not say, get out of the dirt. Say, get into the dirt.
Yeah.
And show me so I can have some to play with too.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love
that. It.
Yeah. 100%. Absolutely. Kind of getting out of our fear and judgment and expectations, which is all like egoic formation to begin with, which is not spirituality.
No.
And just reconnecting, because what is it, like play is 10 times more effective to create learning or something like that. And it's same with adults though. Like interestingly, my husband he's back in school doing an online course for the first time in 15 years or something like that. I don't remember exactly, and I don't feel like doing the math. But going into it, he was a little insecure, as was I when I went back to school, because I thought I was dumb, just as he did, based on the schooling that we had. And we've recently had a conversation. He's like, I actually like learning. I'm like, I know, me too. I actually love learning. Once I learned how to apply it in a way that like meets my needs and to make it playful and to engage with it in a way that is really productive. And anytime I kind of come to this space, I'm like, how do we change the system? How do we get it back to like give that to the kids? And I haven't been able to answer that.
I wrote a book about it.
That's
in the book. I wrote the book about it.
Oh.
I'm telling my story is the story. The book, you know what? I played with words: special welfare, social warfare, and then under it says adolescent to adulthood, a guidebook. The top part is I'm special warfare and I'm a social worker, social welfare. And I flipped it saying the disparity in those that have and have not in this country are so horrific. And that distance there, if we do not do special welfare to counter it, at some point we're going to have social warfare. And that's nobody wins there. And so the story in the book is, where's the money? I tell that story. What's the truth? I use 3 examples. Here's the truth. I wrote it so that you don't need to believe me. And here's the one that cracks people up. I got 509 endnotes. Think about that. I wrote a book and I am not going to answer for it, and I'm not arguing with you. Go to the end note, find out who said it. I used it in their context, argue with them. There's no more argument. Our kids need our help. Here, done. I'm not arguing. I'm not complaining. And I am sharing a story on how we can get on the same page to do that.
I think it was years ago, probably when I worked at rehab, that I found out about a program that followed pregnant women to through labor. I think they were probably either at risk for substance abuse or had a substance abuse diagnosis. But it followed them all the way to labor and then 5 years after. And the program is wildly successful. And so I was like, man, if I were ever to run for office, that would be my campaign, that like we need to implement this program and save our nation. And I think you're saying the same thing. You're just saying it in a little bit of a different way, that yes, the kids are our future. We have to invest in them.
Yeah. So I'm curious, kind of in very much alignment, but I see the social media front, the technology, like there are pros to it. Obviously, we're all here having this conversation. Thank you, technology, right? But social media and AI, like it's not healthy for our brains. It's not healthy for development. And I don't really have the answer as to how we protect our kids or how we tell them or show them or prepare them for this world. What have you discovered through your work, Thomas?
That it is absolutely the wrong path to take if I say you should not have technology. It's the genie's out of the bottle. So mine is, okay, we've got it. How do we use it? Now, when it was first done, in the 80s and 90s, it was being created for one sole reason: monetize this bad boy. And how do you monetize it? I'm a drug addict. Why don't you just use the addictive nature that I have as a human being, create your apps so that they, and psychologists, there are tests that you can take that'll nail you right to every aspect of what you are, including who you should marry and what job you should have. So if you can create the app to addict them, then we can create the app to combine them. This is a unity, because right now that is lacking. It's there, but it's not there sufficiently to meet the human need of friendship. They're connected, they get online, they play their games, it's there, they're back and forth. The bullying and all that can be addressed. I'm in California, in the wine country. You know what? 50 miles south of me is Silicon Valley. I have watched them since I was a kid in the 60s. I've watched that trippy little town become oh my God, oligarch filled, creating what you did not think ahead, and you wanted to make the money, which I can respect. This is America. Let's do the capitalism. I'm fine with that. But you didn't ask, should you make it addictive in this way? And if you do, shoot it at me. All right, I'm a big boy, but don't aim at our kids.
Yeah.
So if it was created as it is, it can be uncreated and recreated. We just have to hold people accountable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a guy that's working on a really cool AI. I think he actually recently released it, that is programmed to have empathy, but it's also programmed to help us become our best selves. It's so cool. I'm really excited for it. I hope that it takes off and that it becomes more of a norm, because like you're saying, it can be our friend. It can help us. It doesn't, it's all in how we're using it. And I know Laura and I were talking about our algorithms a couple of weeks ago, and her algorithm on social media is like, well, why don't you tell them?
I have the best algorithm. It is like funny dog videos, comedy bits, positive psychology stuff, mindset, spirituality, healthy recipes, workout stuff. Yep, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My happy place. That's what I created.
Yeah. So at this stage right now, it's unfortunate, but it's going to take hitting the wall before enough people will say. And it's I wish it was another way. The fact of the matter is that I am seeking that recognition to interview for, and in that time that it happens, I am built for terminal velocity. I'm built for warfare, and I'm also built and taught by youth to be there for youth. So, today I choose what tools and how I'll apply them. And that is my right now, unfortunately, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I wish it was otherwise, but I know the resiliency in kids. I know that this generation, more than any other generation, is intuitive. Like, you couldn't, spooky, intelligent, and have that ability to understand intuitively in a way that the older generations, we don't think this way. And so I am fine with being the protected circle around them so that they can be in the middle doing what they're doing and doing it their way for themselves. And I'll make sure that nothing wants to do harm. And when they need the insight mentoring, all they got to do is ask, because I'm not going to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask them, what do you want me to do?
Right.
So.
I heard an interesting perspective on a different podcast about, he hypothesized that the kind of continued evolution of AI would actually be what brings us back together. Because I happen to agree with you that, you know, avoiding pain is one of the most motivating forces that stimulate behavior. If you think about it, people know, you know, eating well and exercising are good for you, just as an example. And yet they wait until their doctor's like, if you don't do something, like your blood pressure is going to get pretty crazy, right? So like we wait till we're told you're human to like see it's real. I get it. And I have my own versions of it. So like I'm with everyone. But his perspective was that AI is going to make everything so, like, make it so hard to see what's real and what's true that it's actually going to push us back together, because we're going to be so distrusting of the things that are on the internet. And maybe I just like being optimistic. My husband tells me I have rose-colored glasses on all the time, but I would love for that to actually be the reality. I think that would be really beautiful and really cool if, rather than pushing everyone to the most painful point, we actually found the distrust annoying and came together anyways.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm looking around because I have a pair of rose-colored glasses because I got that back years ago. You're looking through, and I'm like, so what? It's still a beautiful view. So
my life, I get to enjoy it for the view I want to, right?
You know what? Because of that youthful inspiration at later in my life, I am an optimist. I feel I'm built, if that's where you want to go, but I'm also built. I'm a healer and a hurter. I live well there. As a Navy SEAL, I was the hospital corpsman. I was the medic. So, you know, I took a Hippocratic oath and an unwritten oath to, you know, preserve life and take life with extreme prejudice. I live in there just fine. I want to be able to be there. And what drives me is the belief of all youth that sun's going to come up and it's going to be better. That's the driving force.
Yeah.
I have a question. Sorry.
Go ahead. No.
You said that this generation, more so than others, is very intuitive.
Mhm.
What do you think makes that true?
Because of their insight. I still have I'm semi-retired. I've got a clientele of 10 folks, 4 of which are in the 20th range, and they have no trouble understanding their emotions and how it fits in this world. And they also see that there are answers out there. However, the adult population looks at the planet and what's going through with global warming, young people see it, know it, fear it, and yet believe that there's ways that we can address it, to alter it, and it still can be done now.
Yeah.
And they have those beliefs, and the way they see the politics, some of them are bit hook, line, and sinker. They got sucked into that thing. But there are others that are like, no, that's not what I'm all about. And there isn't, you know, self-awareness. I didn't get that until I hit the wall at 29. And this generation, there are those that are still going to have to be in their late 20s before they, if even, get the clue. But there is a grouping in there, male and female, that are aware of themselves and the world they live in, and they aren't frightened of it. They are they're angry, and we can, you know what? All human beings can be broken. We can break them. Continue doing what we're doing, and they will do one of two things: break or explode.
I agree with that completely. And I tell my younger clients, they know so much more than I did at their age, and I tell them, like, you're so lucky that you get to learn this stuff now and you can address these things now. Like you're saying, I didn't even notice that I had anxiety for a long time, which is comical to me at this point. But the way that I realized it was graduate school. And I remember driving home from work one day and I was like, why do I feel like I can't breathe right now?
You crack me up. Oh my gosh. Graduate school.
Took me that long to figure it out.
Okay, so I got one. I'll pick mine out for you.
Okay.
I had 32 years of sobriety and I relapsed. That was 5 years ago. And here's the thing is, suicidal ideation. It's part of what we do. It does not throw me. I am completely understanding of how to address it. I know everything that is necessary. So I go out, and the marijuana I smoked when I was a kid, this is not what I'm smoking anymore. And I literally had a meltdown and became suicidal for the first time in my life. And
wow.
it changed me and my practice in ways that are fundamental.
I
It's
can
not,
only imagine. Yeah.
it's not a game. There is a line in there in suicidality that you aren't aware of as the individual, and you cross that line, there's no coming back. You're already dead. You just haven't done it. And that's where it is so important, because this generation of youth, 13 to 23, we don't want to know the statistics. They're horrible. And if there's anything that I also can address and will address and do so in a very subtle way by getting to share, I had my suicidal ideation at the age of 59. And to be able to understand it in that way, it changed everything. It made it more of a driving factor in my practice to make sure you ask questions differently. If you hear it, I'm moving in other ways that I did not know I should ask because I didn't ever have the experience. And now it's a critical part of what I am and do, wanting to be that advocate, is to also be aware that when I hear it, see it, sense it, taste it, anything, I respond to it immediately and do it with kindness and with sensitivity, with empathy, but I'm not leaving you. Period.
That is so sweet.
Yeah.
And so necessary. And I think there was a kid I saw years ago, and he was like, well, all my friends are suicidal. And I was like, what? All your friends? And he's like, well, yeah, people are always saying things like, just shoot me now. And I was like, I hope they don't all mean that.
Right. Yeah. I think it's so challenging because obviously, I associate it with, like, this is a horrible analogy, but it's very applicable, like potty training. Like, we teach our kids, when you feel something inside your body that is like, whatever it is for you, it means you need to go to the restroom, right? But we didn't learn that with our emotions. Like, when you feel tightness in your chest, when you feel that rapid breathing, rather than waiting till graduate school, we can learn that that means, oh, I'm worrying about something. I'm really anxious about something. But we didn't have that taught to us. So the conditioning we received was the emotions that whoever raised us could tolerate was ultimately, what was acceptable. And the moment that your emotions became too much for what they could tolerate, we learn that's not acceptable anymore. But that's not the reality. Like, it's so interesting to me. The more and more I get into coaching, the more and more spirituality shows itself as like the way to like find peace and alignment, and how so many of the problems we deal with are completely directly associated with our emotions and our stubbornness in terms of understanding what they are, how they're trying to guide us, and what they mean. Like, it's a built-in internal GPS system that we're like, no, this isn't acceptable out here, so it's not acceptable in here. And then we just suffer because of it. And that's what creates the addiction. That's what creates the suicide, because we don't know what to do with this stuff, but we have to figure it out. And maybe that's the whole point, is we have to figure it out. And we have people like Thomas writing fantastic books to kind of help us navigate that.
It's
Right.
the stigma piece too.
Yeah.
You know, when you're dealing with a stigma, when I first went into being the military family life consultant, let's go back to my career. Career was 1979 to 1988. They were shrinks. They were chapter 13. You didn't want to be anywhere near mental health. It was taboo. And it still is, even though we say it isn't. The stigma is a really interesting dynamic of, you know, the stigma personally and the stigma socially. It's two different things, how you interpret it and how society interprets it. And all that comes down to, again, with this generation's intuitiveness, you can put it out in a healthy format, again, making it a curiosity for them to take a step a little farther to understand, well, what is it? And in doing so, anytime you are educated a little more, you're a little bit more prepared, a little bit more set. And into that domain is where I'm not the only one. There are those who really concern themselves with young people, and there's a reason for it that does not require a scientific credential to understand that young people are not getting what they need. And all that we keep doing is keep pushing and keep pushing. And at some point, something will give. And when it does, wherever the kids are, that's where you find me.
So you call me and I'll come with you.
Not a problem. You know what? After what we did earlier with the back and forth emails and phone numbers, gotcha. Not a problem.
Connected now. Perfect.
I'll throw this out in conclusion. Laura asked the question earlier, why are emotions important? And I think you answered your own question at the end here, where you said,
right.
Our emotions motivate us. Our emotions are what drives us. And we might not notice that we're paying attention to them in that way. It might be an unconscious driving force, but it is regardless driving us. And it can drive us towards addiction, it can drive us towards death, it can drive us towards health and vibrance. It's all about maybe who's co-piloting.
So the word is serendipity. Serendipity is when something happens that, it leaves you wondering if there isn't something else going on here. And for serendipity to be effective in my world, I have to be in balance with my emotions for the universe to put me in the lives of other people to say, to be, to do. And I want to be that agent of positivity. And again, alpha male, emotions have now become what make me formidable with the only people that matter to me right now, my family and young people.
I love this.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm guessing we got to wrap up here.
Okay.
But I thank you so much for being flexible. Thank you for sharing your story with us, and thank you for the work that you're doing, because you know, if
Sure.
I ever get elected into an office, I'm gonna have to have
saying that.
So here's the thing: is 2 books. I wrote the first one and didn't know how to get published. The second one, I got a publicist, I got a manager, and I got a marketer. And on the 2nd of May, I'm on TV in Washington, D.C. Later that month, I am in New York City. And at the end of next week, Channel 5 is CBS in the Bay Area. I'm being interviewed because the month of May is Mental Health Month.
Yeah.
So I am, because now I'm out and about and people see me, I'm being requested. So remember, I'm seeking the light so that I can give it to who I believe should have it. And then I'll protect it based off of all the young people and what they want to do with it. This is my journey, and it is my passion because of, again, what gift I was given when I thought life was over at 29. And young people just said, no, you're not done yet.
Yeah.
You're here.
Can you share the titles of the books so that our listeners can order them if they are interested? So we got Special Welfare, Social Warfare.
Adolescence to Adulthood, it's a guidebook. And there's many stories within stories, but it all comes down to it in the end is, what are we going to do for our kids?
Well, there you have it. That is definitely a book that we should all read, in all honesty. Thank you. I totally reiterate what Alicia shared. The mission is so important, and it's conversations like these that give me a lot of hope, especially during some of the political climate we're currently navigating.
Correct.
And it's unity, to your point. So thank you, truly. I'm happy we were able to navigate the technical difficulties.
Yes.
And yeah, let's keep doing the work.
You're both great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
you.
Bye.